It's Sunday, August 27th, 8:25 a.m., coming at you live from Maui, Hawaii. And we are currently in the fifth line of this whole 59-55 transit. It's raining here in Maui, which is lovely. I love the rain so much. And this is the first wash of tea. So with tea, the first time we pour water in is literally just to wash the tea. This is Holma. This is my tea pet. And so this is, all of this tea is just going down the bucket. It's used to heat the pot up. It's used to heat the vessel up, which is the cup. And so this is kind of like my little morning ritual. And it goes really well with the transits because I get to have tea and transits. And they both start with tea, so it's awesome. Are there panda tea pets? They have all kinds of tea pets. And I mean, this is just like a little ceramic guy. You can see that's Holma. And yeah, so I mean, technically anything could be a tea pet, really. But I got Holma off of the Amazon. And anyway, so we are in gate 59 in the sun and gate 55 in the earth. So we're specifically gate 59.5, which is the feminine fatale or Casanova. Exaltation is the power to use love to break down any barrier. Given the sun's lightness, there is no negative connotation inherent in this description. The power of sexuality to attract others. Uranus in detriment, where the negative potential of this power becomes evident. The gigolo, the adventuress, the power of sexuality expressed as sexual power. So it's like sexuality for the sake of sexuality is not necessarily exalted or a superior expression. And this is actually something that I've been kind of talking about, not too much online, but just in my circles, because I have some friends who are incredibly, they would call it sexually embodied, but I would say that they're sexually expressed, because there's no fertility element within the sexuality. And that's kind of something that I think this 59.5 is speaking to, which is like the power of sexuality is to attract others. Like the reason why, a man is attractive to a woman is because he's strong, he can protect her, he has good genes, etc. Same thing can be said for a woman. She's got the big breasts for breastfeeding. She's got the glutes, which is for the power. She's got like the big hips, which is birthing hips. And so, sexuality is not some kind of thing that's detached from fertility or having children. And not to say that's the only reason why one would have sex, but in terms of like more mature forms of sexual expression and sexual embodiment, ultimately that is what sex is. That's the highest thing you can do with sex. It's not just strictly for our pleasure. So again, 59 would be the 0.5 is this ability to understand the power of sexuality and its attraction of others, and not necessarily just the same sex, because yesterday's line was brotherhood and sisterhood, which was power derived from non-sexual intimacy. And then dispersion in general is the ability to break down barriers to achieve union. And so this is the thing, again, that is like when you couple this with 6, which 6 is in the solar plexus. 6 is the diaphragm that kind of provides the timing, and 59 is the actual capacity and the ability and the satisfaction of tearing down those barriers. So we ultimately have a really interesting 6th line, which I'll go ahead and read to you now because it's funny. It's called the one night stand in the Rave I Ching, and it's the tendency based on personality or circumstance to accept only temporary unions that may be otherwise impossible or dangerous continue. And this one is like the power for intimacy regardless of conditions, as opposed to the detriment, which is the drive for sexual and intimate diversity. Interesting. Yes, I mean, this is old school, like Chinese philosophy, so it's very you could say condemning of promiscuity and intimate diversity or sexual diversity, which, I would say I was very much so caught in the illusion, and not to project on anyone, this is just my story, but I was caught in the illusion that, as a man, I'm supposed to have like, oh, I'm just going to flow and I'm going to have all these different partners and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, the minute I became a father, I realized like, oh, that's that's not something that I want. Like I love this family and I love this woman so much. She's given me so much, and I don't really have much energy to entertain anything else. And so, and I see that for me as a sign of maturity for sure. And I was actually worried about that. I was like, am I gonna be able to table myself and show up as a dad? And so far I have. So anyway, so we'll be moving into that like some point, like at 4 a.m. tomorrow. And now we're in gate 55, which 55 is abundance and spirit. This is in the solar plexus. And line 5 is growth, which is the unusual ability in a position of power to accept advice and transform it innovatively. This gift in position of power allows one to continue to lead rather than being perceived as being led. The emotional strength and spirit derived from positions of power. The detriment of this line is an integrative openness that in its broad acceptance of advice may eventually be eclipsed. An emotional openness where the spirit is at risk from conditioning. So again, it's like these elements of conditioning, these elements of, oh, what's up, Luke? These elements that are present, they're either going to stunt our growth or they're going to enhance our growth. And neither is better or, however, we do have a choice much of the time in the matter. So it really comes down to this question of like, well, what is it that you're choosing? So gates, we're still in gate 59 in the sun, 55 in the earth, and we're in the 5th line of these gates. So heretical lines, baby, which are my personal favorite. Out of all the lines, I think 5th line has got to be my favorite, just because, I mean, I am a 5th line, but also just it's the one that I had the most trouble accepting. Like I could get my 3rd line. I totally got my 3rd line and like having to make mistakes and things like that, but I didn't like being the heretic. I didn't like being the I didn't like being the one that was calling people out or going in. I didn't want the attention on me, and a lot of the times I thought that the heretic nature was, oh, you're just doing this for attention, but it actually was never that. It's always been speaking against the pieces that have been solidified that that don't work, right? There's so many things that have been solidified in society that, or maybe they work, but only to like benefit a few people, not necessarily to benefit the entirety of the community or the people that are being served. And so ultimately, you can't blame the rulers for the ones that are ruled being passive and just allowing shit to happen. It's like the whole like abuser and victim mentality is it's one level to take, but maturity demands, and the superior way demands that what's up, Tim? Demands that we take responsibility for our actions, especially as adults, because we can't change what happens to us, but we can change the story that we tell about ourselves about what happens to us. And another really good analogy comes from one of my teachers, Jim Rohn. He says, it's not the blowing of the wind that determines your direction, it's the set of your sails. And so a lot of people will complain that the wind is not blowing in a favorable direction, while the superior man or the superior woman will just alter their sails so as to use the wind that is blowing, right? And one thing about navigating, right, is like, of course you plot a straight line, but ultimately no path is ever a straight line. You always get blown a little off course, you always get a little bit distracted, and then you have to harmonize or do this balancing act, which I spoke a lot on yesterday about how balance is like perfection as opposed to balancing. and perfecting, approaching perfection or approaching balance, as opposed to this illusion like, oh, I'm perfectly balanced. Like, dude, your feet aren't even the same size. You know what I mean? Your face is asymmetrical. Like, we're human beings. And so much of what human design has allowed me to do, especially with learning these transits, number one, it's a great way to learn the gates because we get to spend, a whole like 6 days per gate. But the deeper understanding, of course, with the transits is like recognizing that, oh, there is a sacral and emotional pressure that is not normal, is not necessarily natural for me or not normal for me. I don't experience this much stress or this much emotions normally, right? Normally, I'm much less emotional, I'm much less stressed. But this week has, and I'm like, maybe it's placebo effect, or maybe it's just the freaking neutrinos, especially for reflectors and people that have the solar plexus and the sacral open. You're going to feel this, right? And one of the things that is so beautiful about the laws of the universe is that, we can forego the investigation. We can forego the consideration or the diagnosing that something is wrong with me because I feel something that is I don't normally feel. And if there's an explanation for that, oh, it's just the transits. Oh, it's just gate 59. Oh, it's just gate 55. In a way, there's a lot of bypassing that we can do that's like helpful. Open is undefined. Yeah. So if you have an undefined solar plexus or an undefined undefined sacral or undefined solar plexus, these gates are on. So they add an extra oomph to these gates, and they may even define these gates for you, which means they'll be even more on, right? So with for instance, the open solar plexus, right? It doesn't have a lot of energy to process emotions, right? It has high levels of awareness of usually other people's emotions, not necessarily one's own emotions. But it provides us with energy to process emotions. And so with a defined solar plexus via the transits or even via composite, somebody else coming in and hooking you up, this is one of those things where it's like you might have the energy to go confront emotions, and you might think, oh, I'm supposed to confront emotions. I'm supposed to like ride out these emotional waves and do all this stuff. And again, that's not necessarily it doesn't necessarily change who you are fundamentally. So you can use the transits in like a very contrastive type of way to, like, you guys remember that scene where Mr. Smith sticks his hand inside of Neo and he starts to like transform him into one. That's what we're doing. That's like what the transits are constantly trying to do, is like program us. And similarly enough, the unconscious parts of ourselves that project our openness or project our root pressure or sacral pressure on other beings, we're doing that unconsciously. It's a physics equation. Like we are just ultimately looking to understand the world through our mental authority as opposed to the authority of our form. And that's where, again, human design keeps coming back to strategy and authority, because the strategy and authority is the way by which our form is going to navigate the world, whereas our mind and the outer authority understands it through senses and external validation and all that. Strictly open means no activations, no hanging gates. Undefined means there's not colored in, but there may be hanging gates. Oh, cool. I love having Prana around. It's like having an encyclopedia. It's so great because there's things that I'm like could be using interchangeably, but open is fully open, and undefined means that they're either are not colored in, or it means that they're not colored in, but there may be hanging gates. That makes a lot of sense. So then I would have all undefined centers, and that's like a beautiful distinction because, again, with human design. And I see it a lot, there's a lot of people that are like intuitively interpreting human design, but they never necessarily mastered the system. I'm speaking about myself, my heretic self. I haven't necessarily like mastered the system in a way where I can really break the rules in a good way, which is why, you know, I've done apparently a pretty good job of having some experts around me that are really well trained in human design to just kind of like check me and offer me, hey, yes, and that, because it's one thing that I see in society a lot is this kind of pendulum swing between tradition and innovation. And we're at a point now where it's like, because of the internet, the pendulum can almost be in both places at once. Whereas like architecture, for an example, right? People were building at all these like classic structures like pillars and Victorian style, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden we went into like 20 years of making concrete buildings with tiny little windows. And it took us another 20 years to get out of that mentality and come back to the fundamental traditions of architecture that actually make us feel good. And, you know, so with that being said, there has to be a collaboration between, you know, the source material purist junkies and the intuitive innovator mutation type people. And the more that they can realize that they're working together and not against each other. I mean, it's okay to work against each other, but there's like collaborative competition, and then there's that egoic competition that I will destroy you and I will destroy myself in order to destroy you because I don't want you to exist. Whereas, as opposed to respecting the existence of the other and using that competition as collaboration. And so, yeah, so we're kind of straying away from the transits here. But if anyone has any questions, I'm down to answer a few questions. How'd you guys like that AMA last week, by the way? You guys ready for round two? I'm already ready for round two. I'm like, Prana, what you think, bro? What you think? Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm ready. I really love that kind of format. I learned so much last time. I really want to talk more about like the aliens and all that magic. Which actually I do want to talk about magic as well. Yeah, taking notes and stuff like that. It was good. Well, hey Luke, while you're here, bro, you got the book handy? Can you drop some I Ching poetry on us? I would love that. What would I define as magic? Well, that's a great question, because I think like really simple things are magic, like talking to a tree is magic. But then there's also like you know, ritual magic, which is patternized magic. Nice, Luke, going up to the mountains. Cool, man. Well, thanks for tuning in and you know, telling me I'm beautiful and stuff. But yeah, so magic, you know, I think magic ranges. Ultimately, I think everything is magic. Even like, you know, there's like shadowy magic, which is like, you know, social media algorithms pulling people out of their body. That's magic as well. But in terms of like the types of magic that I practice, I used to work with plant medicine quite a bit. I work with hop ace still, but stopped weed and tobacco. I feel really good from that. So I think plants are a type of magic, and it's as cool as like each realm of life kind of has its own magic. It's like the exact how you say expression of magic is so unique to the life form that is expressing it. But like, I mean, the fact that a bee can just come along and like roll around in a flower, and because it rolled around in a flower, the flower got pollinated and a fruit can spring forth from it, like that's magic. I think human design is magic. I think language is probably one of the coolest underrated magics that we have as well, because you know, language allows us to manipulate our thoughts and manipulate reality in such a way. And then another type of magic would just be like reality and being able to point to something. Like there's certain people who have a magic of, and this, I'm wondering what gate this would be. Maybe like a 14 or a 52/9 channel would be the magic. Yeah, definitely like 52/9 channel would be the magic of someone asks like, what's the answer to the universe? And the person just goes like, points to a rock, right? Or points to the moon. Right? That would be that style of magic. But then there's also the magic of, you know, somebody who has the 1156 that someone asks the same question, what's the answer to the universe or whatever, and they can then go weave on this beautiful story. And so so there's just so many, you know, different kinds of magic. And what's going on over here? Is there somewhere in the server where we can add our own notes about our chart, like a little archive? So Ella, if you go to your body, did you post your body graph in the body graph gallery? Because if you post your body graph gallery there, then it'll be saved in the form, and yeah, you can totally add, you can comment on it and put it there. Oh yeah, I feel the same way, Dragon. It's awesome. Gate of 47 is crazy. I have two exes that have called me lately. Maybe because the gate 59, maybe they're missing that intimacy. Gate 48 is the gate of black magic. 11 is the gate of white magic. And oh my god, that's so cool! I was watching what's it called, Hunter x Hunter, because the guy whose video you posted, he talked about the 27. He mentioned this anime Hunter x Hunter, which our girl Onion was like, "Oh, that's the same creator as Yu Yu Hakusho," and I love Yu Yu Hakusho. But I got to the point in the anime where they're talking about aura types and how the aura is clear to human design. It's really trippy, and I'm you know, as you guys know, I'm like really geeked out about human design and martial arts and physical fitness and stuff. And so yeah, it's just another piece of the puzzle in terms of being able to ground human design in the body. And also the different aura types and different techniques that you can do with aura types. Like I talk about the reverse belly breathing a lot for people with undefined and open centers. Like if you want to protect those centers, a really simple practice that you can do is just the reverse breathing technique. So normally when you inhale, your belly goes out, and when you exhale, your belly collapses and goes in. And so what you do is a parabolic breath, and you breathe in, and instead of letting your belly go out, you forcibly suck your belly in. And then when you breathe out, you push your belly out. So your inhales and your belly are going in, and your exhales and your belly are going out. And that just like grounds you more into your body, because ultimately the only protection we have is the truth. And while conditioning can make sense, it's not the truth. Like, there's no way, even though we're spending a lot of time together, for you to actually change my genetic expression in my circuitry, right? I might be able to, over the course of years and years and years, be able to change it, but it's me doing it, not necessarily you. And the one thing that brings me back to center more than anything is this is this breathing technique. And so it's like I find myself, like I went into a Target the other day, and I just naturally started breathing that way. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like I've practiced this enough that it's kind of a permanent thing. So so yeah, this is that the projector breathing technique y'all do? No, so this is a and it's actually really funny. This would be a an enhancement of my own aura, right? Of the ability for me to strengthen, and I guess maybe an emitter as well, which enhancing and emitting auras are from this show Hunter x Hunter, which is it's a really cute anime. It's pretty badass too, actually. Not quite as badass as Jujutsu Kaisen, but so they have Ren, which is the ability to release your aura, Ten, which is the ability to control your aura, Zetsu, which is containing the aura, which is that's exactly what Zetsu is this breathing technique would be Zetsu. So yeah, no, I don't know if I ever threw this out there as a projector breathing technique. Again, this was actually I usually give this more to reflectors, I'm confused. I had to reteach myself to breathe into belly and flatten it out, but you're saying to intentionally do the opposite. Yeah, so it's like the normal breathing is like you breathe in and your belly fills up with air, and then you breathe out. That's like to relax, right? But what I'm talking about is when you don't want to relax, when you want your aura and your energy to be alert, you do the opposite. So you breathe in and then you suck it in, suck your belly in, and then you breathe out and you push your belly out. Hopefully that makes sense. Gate of realization that comes from ruminating in the past. Yeah. Yeah, so you do it when you don't want to relax. Because that's the thing, is like, right? It's you might be inappropriately relaxing in situations when you ought to be more alert, which I think 47 is alertness. It's funny we're talking about that. I wasn't really even tracking that, but grandfather gifts is 48, grandmother is 11. Yeah, Hunter x Hunter, it's a little slow, but it's awesome, Dragon. When it gets to like episode like 20 or something, I think is when they start talking about the auras. These are the gates. The gate gelatos to inhale and exhale aura directly into your chart. Welcome to the Gates Gelato Shop. Yeah, I swear I'm like 6 years old still. Yes. Oh my god. Okay, so wait a second. So we have these are the gates to related to. Okay, so if I were to go to my neutrino design, and then we have to switch on advanced view in order to get the squares. And I can't be. Oh, I guess I can't be in color mode. And then these are design. So go to the design notes, and we're looking at the gas. Okay, this makes a lot of sense. So oxygen absorption. So for me, I'm absorbing through gate 43.6, and then exhalation. I'm exhaling bigotry. I'm inhaling breakthrough, and my aura then is incommunicado, which is gate 48, which is black magic. Oh my god! Am I a dark wizard? I don't want to be a dark wizard. Oh my god! No, I'm okay with being a dark wizard because you can be like a good dark wizard, right? You can use black magic for the light just as much as you could use light magic for the darkness. But yeah, I got a lot of activation in gate 48. I got it's my Saturn that's in gate 48, and I have both of them are in the third line. Which, let's go look at gate 48 real quick, yeah? So gate 48, line 3, incommunicado, symbolized by the no moon phase where the potential of light is unrecognized, unavailable, and unknowable. The redeeming value is that transience of such a stage which can give strength to those afflicted. Where development of taste and depth is a long-term process, definitely detriment is the tendency in a long-term process to develop anxiety. So 48 in the spleen, the necessary and qualitative foundation that is a prerequisite to establish the common good. So that would be black magic. And gate 11 would be white magic, which is peace and the ideas, which definitely makes sense. A harmonic condition in the individual society that permits assessment before renowned action. So, like, just thinking about those two as contrasts, it's like depths, roots. It's not necessarily black magic so much as it is the magic of uncovering that which is deep within the earth. And then peace is up in the ajna, which is again another awareness center. It's about permitting assessment before the renewing of action, a harmonic condition in the individual society that permits assessment before renewed action. Peace, ideas. I wish I had the I Ching over here. That's one thing that I'm like, I think a big key for anybody out there is to really look at the I Ching, like look at your activation sequence or you look at your incarnation cross, and then start drawing out the hexagrams that are related to the gates in those activation sequences. It's really like, it's meditative, it's trippy, it's really cool. It's also like a signature, you know, especially if you put dots next to the lines that you actually have activated, like you would if you were reading the I Ching. All right, it's getting hot now. Take this sweater off. But this has been cool, guys. We've been talking about magic, which I love magic. As my name on Instagram and social media implies, I've been trained in Reiki, and that was one of the most beautiful magics that I ever encountered. It was just somebody who was peaceful and calm enough to like hold space for me when my nervous system was crazy out of whack. And yeah, it definitely inspired me to like really step forward with healing. And I did some crazy things in my Reiki magic, make Reiki Marco times. So yeah, is there a video explaining these general visuals to help me understand? So you're talking. So what Prana was doing there? Sorry guys, I didn't scroll down. I'm just seeing some of these new messages. What you're looking at is if you go to your Neutrino app, okay, and this is only available on the Neutrino app. I haven't seen any other apps do this. All right, you're in the Neutrino app. You're gonna go up to the settings, the little gear. Okay, you guys see where it says advanced view? It's like right there. We're going to click advanced view. That takes us, and this gives us our magic squares. And then we're going to hit the notes on the red side, on the design side, notes. That's going to bring it up. And then so we have layers of gas, liquids, and solids, right? So this would be like physical matter, tissue. Liquids would be fascia, water, fluids, pee, cum, spit, all that stuff. And then gas, they have an inhale and exhale. And so in terms of, how to use this, I'm still actually just learning about it. But for instance, for me, my natural breath in is through gate 43, that's like individual insights. And so I can go and then click that, and I can look at it, and it'll take me to that gate activation right there. So yeah, definitely get the app, guys. It's $40 for the entire year, which is ridiculously good of a deal. And it's it's like the best app. And plus Prana and I are also like advising the homie on how to like make it better, basically, which is really fun. So I feel like the design side of the magic square, we don't have to concern ourselves too much with anyway. It's the personality side we need to have more awareness of. Yeah, for sure. And it's like, that's a good point, because in a lot of ways, the understanding the personality is like the personality is the first gatekeeper in a sense. Like you're not going to be able to discover the subconscious undercurrents until you until you really like can embrace and accept the conscious currents that are available, because the design is already operating. Yeah, that too is like, again, you don't have to inhale and exhale. It just happens for you. If you hold your breath and you pass out, you keep on breathing. You know what I'm saying? So in terms of the let's see, the what do you call it? The magic square in the on the personality side. Again, I don't necessarily know too much about that, but often associated with grief in TCM. As a side note, wow, I have lung issues. Would that show up in the chart? Yeah, interesting. I don't know. Again, I'm not too versed in the magic square type stuff. Although I can infer a lot just from looking at it and my understanding of the gates. Again, I don't necessarily know how they function. So, Samurai, if you got anything on that, feel free to share. Oh, not ready yet. Magic Square, yeah, it seems pretty complex. I remember looking at it for the first time and just being like, what in the hell is this? This is crazy. I love it. I love it. But I will definitely learn some more of that because, like, I like just the general, the whole like breathing thing. How Prana just kind of like threw that in there, and then also what the Prana has made a handful of like infographics, super epic, and yeah, I'm hoping to encourage him to continue doing that because I think they're, for me, I'm definitely a visual learner, graphics and stuff like there. Yeah, there's a lot to type here, but there's some infographics I have access to that can help. Yeah, that would be awesome. Maybe if you could make like a Power Facts form in the resources center, we could just use Power Facts as kind of like my catch-all. But if you want to post the infographics in there, Samurai, that would be sweet. Yes, lots of sadness and grief, yet always hopeful. Yeah, so a lot of the times I've heard a handful of different people say grief is in the lungs and in the stomach. And you know, that's the one thing about the lungs and the stomach is that, especially with the lungs, like the lungs, we're always sharing air, right? We're always sharing air. And so to be breathing in people's sadness, you know, again, is a natural thing. And but another thing about breathing is that we hold our breath, right? Like we don't hold our breath. And so one thing to be mindful of with the grief is because some people become really addicted to grief and they design their entire lives around it. Like they make their whole personality. I'm the grief stricken one. And that's just a how you say, a robbery, a thief of joy in some ways. Man, I'm like, I got other work to do, but I don't want to leave here because it's kind of popping up in here. This is something that I've been curious about because each of the centers have biological links. Ra has mentioned, oh, I actually have, I was actually, I can look up, let's see, physiology. Let's find what gate is associated with the lungs. This is from the I Ching. Lungs, gate 21. Da-na-na-na. Do you have gate 21? So things that I with grief, you know, there's a lot of the times it's like tears and it's like stuff in the chest because grief is kind of like what I associate grief to is like something that you're holding on to that like slips away, right? And so soft tissuing parts of the body, which maybe meat suit lessons, if you have any codes on this and I'm touching like a bladder line or something, let me know. But I noticed that this area for me, right up here, right under the collarbone, will sometimes cause this like kind of kind of sometimes cause this like a grief energy to move. And oh man, what is that one? That one gets tight for me a lot. That is the parallel meridian organ. Aha! Ow! Fuck. So I do a process called soft tissue, but it's literally like hunting demons in your body. But with the releasing of the grief, also one thing you want to be aware of is that trauma exits the body through the water in the body because it's the water is the thing that holds the memory. And so if you are wanting, a really good thing to do would be like do some soft tissue, particularly seems like this area is a good point for grief. Ugh. Yeah, I definitely need to release this. And what you want to do is just pick a spot and you search around a little bit, but you're looking for something on like the 8 to 9, 10 scale. You don't want it like so painful that you can't relax. But once you find like a good spot, You might have to like search around for it. What you want to do is pin that spot down. You can think of it like there's a frozen grape in your body that you just want to squish this grape, and then you just start driving into it. And usually it's something like you can use like a brush like this, a force amplifier, I think is what they call it, or a piece of wood, or even a lacrosse ball. Like if you lay on your belly and do this. But the idea is you're not like moving it around, you're using this dull pressure because it activates something called nociception, which is the body's ability to relax when it's being touched. And so whatever water is being held here by your body can now be like a frozen grape being like crushed open, and then you can then cry those tears out, or sweat those tears out, or pee them out, or cum them out, or bleed them out. So it like leaves through the water leaving your body. How do you drain lymphatic system? Oh, that's a good question. I learned how to do lymphatic drainage on myself because I had some lymph issues in my young teenage years. Brushing, rebounding, using so you could honestly just like jumping, lots of water for sure. Any kind of like pumping motion, like you can like press right here on a lot of these spots, just like gentle pressure, because the idea is that the lymph moves through the body and it doesn't have the you can put it right in there, Samurai. Thank you, bro. Drain towards your armpits and groins. And I'm like, meat suit, maybe if you have some like YouTube videos or something that people could watch. I'm really excited for our session on Monday, by the way. This is going to be I have a feeling it's going to be a good one. I'm like, have you made any? Do you want to make it? But anyway, guys, I got to hop off here and get done. So thanks for tuning in to the Tea in Transits. Feel free to continue this conversation here or where